That was a good drink, man.
Greetings, sports fans, and welcome to another edition of the Breath of Fresh Air Webcast. You already saw Patrick Brackett there taking a drink of water or whatever he had, but but that is Patrick, and I am Charles Taylor, and we are here to talk about some issues. It is a pretty packed show for tonight, so let's just get right to it. So, Patrick, first topic I want to cover is the NFL's Rooney Rule. So, with the Rooney Rule, for those who might not know what it entails, basically it says teams who have a head coaching vacancy or a front office vacancy are required to interview minority candidates before they can hire whoever it is for the job. So, with this rule, Patrick, I just let me get your thoughts first before I jump in there. Let me get your thoughts first on the general rule itself, and do you feel the rule is misplaced?
Absolutely, I think it's misplaced. In our society today, I think we're too focused on what the color of our skin is, opposed to how educated the person is to do the job. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and justify and say white people have a better opportunity to get a higher paying job than black people. Mexicans are the only ones that work for pennies or anything. It's like this. In America, you are given the same opportunity as any person in America to get an education. Take me and you, for example. Military. Been military for 13, 14 years, both of us. You have an education, I have an education. We put in our time and we got it. Plain and simple. I'm a white person, you're a black person. What's the problem? We decided to put in work. That's the problem. Everybody else is too damn lazy to do everything else. So we have to make these rules. The Rooney Rule, or some companies, Fortune 500 companies, say we have to have minorities representing 10% of the entire employment. Look, if a black man in my business, and I own two businesses, if a black man in my businesses are better than a white man, I'm going to hire him. I need people that I can trust to do the job without me having to micromanage. So is this Rooney Rule misplaced? It's misplaced in society altogether because it focuses on segregation. And if we're so past this whole thing about whites and blacks, then do away with it. But if you're going to do it, then do away with the Negro College Fund, which also represents segregation. Do away with Black Entertainment TV, which also does against segregation. And if as white people and black people are so racist against each other, then why do we need all of these things to focus on blacks getting education or whites getting education when me and you didn't rely on any of that crap? I joined the military just like you did. You got an education just like I did. And here we are, very successful people. What's the point? Where is the line that needs to be drawn? Because Charles, the last time I seen, you're a black man, I'm a white man, and we are like freaking brothers. I love you to death, dude. So where is all this stuff needing to come from? I think as a country, we need to get past it, which, I'm not going to say where we are. I'm not saying that we're even heading in the right direction, because at this point, this country's going to hell anyway. You should have stayed in Germany.
and love, Patrick. Hey, right back at you about the love, man. But yeah, you know what? The first of all, the world just seems like a crazy place right now. There's just a lot of stuff that's going on. And it's a lot of craziness that's happening all over the world. It seems like every time you turn on the news or turn on the television or go on your phone or on the computer and you go to whatever site, there's something bad that's happening. as far as what you were saying about the Rooney Rule, yes, at some point, you would hope a person can be hired because he or she can do the job. That's what you're looking for. The Rooney Rule, to me, it just seems a little bit misplaced. First of all, it's misplaced because if you're a minority candidate and you know you're not going to get that job, you're just sitting there, you're filling a spot just so you can get interviewed. That's dumb to me.
Waste of time.
It's a waste of time.
Don't waste my time. I'm not going to waste his time. I'm not going to waste my time, bro. If you don't meet the qualifications, you're not getting hired.
Right.
But
So
if
why
you
are you
do,
gonna
guess what? Let's go to work and make some money, dude.
right? So it doesn't make any sense to me. It's just a misplaced rule. And I agree with you about how things just seem so segregated now because you have all these organizations for whites, for blacks, for Hispanics, for Asians. I could go on and on and on with the races. If we are supposed to be the United States of America,
Why are we
then
so
yeah,
segregated?
right. All that stuff, it has to stop. And we need to sit back. I think we need to take a step back and we do need to look at what we are doing as a society. What motives do we have? What is going on with the way we are thinking as a whole? And with all these rules, the Rooney Rule to me is just an extension, really, of all these other organizations that are out there.
That are pointless. At what point do we start worrying about the real color? The green.
Green money.
Green.
Yeah.
Because that's what makes the world go round. I'm not going to sit here and say it's the root of all evil because everybody was like, oh, money's the root of all evil. Okay, you know what? Kiss my ass on that. All right.
Well, the thing is, Patrick, money does drive a lot of stuff,
Money
but
drives everything.
but I think the way people try to get to it seems a little bit flawed sometimes. Now I understand.
All the time.
Yeah. Now I understand.
There's a reason why there's rich people and it's only represented by 1% of the country or the world is because they do it fairly honest, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I understand people are trying to get paid whichever way, and I mean it's how you're gonna make a living in the world. I get it, but sometimes I think the actual message of things that are being started, they get lost in they get lost in the shuffle in a way of trying to get money. And sometimes when you're trying to get that money, everything else you're blinded to. You have tunnel vision, you're trying to get to the money, and it's not even about the cause you're fighting for anymore. It's about getting paid. Yeah. And I think back real quick, back to the Rooney Rule. The Rooney Rule is not making any difference. You look at the league right now, I think there's 5 or 6 minority coaches in the league still to say head coaches. And there's not many people who have front office positions besides your white males. So look, again.
Well, that's just, I mean, and honestly, Charles, I got to say this. I mean, that's just white people being greedy. It's like this, dude. When I look at an owner, let's take the Dallas Cowboys. Shout out to Stan. Let's take the Dallas Cowboys real quick. Like, all right, Jerry freaking Jones, who is the owner, who's the general manager, who is the head coach, who is the quarterback, who is also the wide receivers and the running backs. I mean, this guy is a one-man show. Why? Because he doesn't want to pay anybody. Now, at least he's upfront with it. I mean, he'd tell you, no, I'm not gonna hire a general manager. Why would I need to do that when I'm smart enough to do it myself? Okay, I got you, Jerry. I got you. Fair enough, right? But it's just white people being greedy. I mean, it's not that they're afraid to hire those people. It's just the fact that why hire it when they feel like they can do it better? Okay, look, dude. At some point, you're going to figure out that you're going to need a general manager, and you can't run it yourself.
And if you're in that position, Patrick, you're not going to be as quick to want to turn that over. So
Exactly.
if you have that type of power that Jerry Jones has, he this is his baby, and in his baby, I'm talking about the Dallas Cowboys, and he's gonna want to have an ultimate say so on everything, every
Mhm.
matter, business and football wise. That's just how it is. And if you look at the Dallas Cowboys, I think last week I saw on Forbes or whatever it was, they're the most they're the most profitable franchise now. They're the most expensive franchise in sports now.
Yeah.
So,
And it shouldn't be surprising. I mean, it's not that it's because he's ran by a white man or anything like that. It's just it's about the control. And the problem is that we still haven't had that trend. The same people that have been managing these teams for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years are still in those positions. Why? Because they don't want to let it go. It's a good job. So they're not going to let it go. So when you look at somebody that has 20 years of experience with, let's say the Dallas Cowboys, or we'll transfer to basketball for just a minute. When you have a head coach under Greg Popovich, talking about at Budenholzer, and then he goes to Atlanta. I mean, he has so much experience under Popovich. Why would you not hire him? I mean, Popovich has proven to be a great commodity. He wins. Why would you not go with the same ethic? You know what I'm saying? So when those people are holding those positions, they're just not going to let it. Dude, Budenholzer is going to be there for a while. He's not going to let it go. So therefore, to hire another person, or let's say a black man, is far and in between because that position is filled and it's going to be filled for a while. So that's the problem that we're having, is that we still have these older people that are still holding these positions for years on end, and I swear they're probably not going to give it up until they're about to freaking die. I mean, I hate to be so blunt about it and mean that as like a joke, but it's serious. When you got somebody that's as old as Pat Riley, dude, let it go. Just let it go, bro. Retire and go home. Penn State head coach who had to be literally wheeled out of every game. He just was not letting go of that position.
yeah, and I mean, you go back to football, and you're talking about Al Davis. Look at Al Davis.
Al Davis.
Literally, he died
Mm-hmm.
before he was going to let go of the Oakland Raiders. And so you
Exactly.
have you I mean, you make a good point with these guys who have been in these positions, those owners in the NFL. A lot of those guys, Robert Kraft for the New England Patriots, another one. These
Mm-hmm.
guys have been there for a while, years, decades. And so when you have those dudes who are used to a certain way of doing things, they don't really want a lot of change.
No, and the problem is that they're running 90% of the team. So if they're not wanting change, yet they need to hire somebody, which is going to be very far and in between. They're going to hire somebody that has the 20 plus years experience. Unfortunately, for the minority communities, you don't get that opportunity because you don't have the experience. And dude, believe me, I have killed myself because in a computer industry, what is the first thing that people are? I mean, we've had this conversation. In a computer industry, this is what I get. I really like your education, but you don't have the experience that I'm looking for. Okay, well, in my industry, how in the hell do you get experience? I have to go and start a business. So I went and started one. I did what I needed to do. I finally landed a job that gave me more experience. Then I went back to doing my own business again. I mean, it sucks. Don't get me wrong, it sucks, and I feel the pain. I really do, because how many interviews did I go on before I landed that first job, Charles? Like 55 to 60 almost. I mean, I was telling you constantly. And I think that is the problem. Right now, I don't think, I want to say I don't think it's a race issue, even though it probably is. But I also think it's just the old people, whether they're white or black or whatever, they just don't want to let the positions go. They just need to. They're going to hold on with every wrinkled piece of skin they have left on their hands and their backs and their foreheads, and they're going to hold on to it for dear life. Then they'll finally croak over, and then that position will be free.
Yeah, and I think honestly, yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I mean, I would like to think race doesn't have anything to do with it, but I think we would be naive to say it didn't have a little bit.
Yeah, dude,
Yeah,
it has an effect. I mean, it still does. We're not past it yet.
yeah.
Yeah, we have a black president, but is he really black?
Wow. Well, look,
I sometimes get a wonder. I don't know what he is.
wow.
I'm just playing. Now, you would like to think that we're past it because we have a black president, but we're not.
No, we're not, and we probably will never.
Like you said, you'd be naive to think that we are.
We'll probably never get past it, man, because you're always going to have somebody who has some crazy views, man. There's almost 8 billion people on this planet. Somebody's bound to think with a offside with the outside way of view. But Patrick,
I would like to think we have hope.
Right.
How handsy this world is now compared to when we were growing up. I remember taking baths at the water hose butt naked in my front yard. That happens now.
Yeah.
Child labor law or child services call them right now. I'm like, they're just taking a bath.
Yeah, it's a more sensitive society we're in. Well, Patrick, we gotta move on. But
okay.
Just to say,
I can talk about that forever, though, dude.
Right, I know. But with the Rooney rule, just to wrap it up, man. So you think the rule is a little misplaced?
I think it's misplaced, not only in NFL but in society. I mean, that entire rule does adapt to a lot of people, a lot of companies in society, and I just think it's misplaced.
All right, and hey, and I agree, man. I just think it's it's an extension of how messed up our society is, anyway. But well, next topic, Patrick. We'll stay in the NFL, and we have another player who has retired from the league around the age of 30. So this one is Minnesota Vikings offensive tackle Phil Loadholt. He retired today. So
that was official then, huh?
Yes. The 13th player this year, I think, this offseason to retire before the age of 30. So my question, Patrick, is what does this tell you about what these players are doing, walking away from the game at a relatively young age, and also about some of the research that has been conducted in terms of concussions and head and neck injuries and so forth?
Well, first of all, I would want to say, let's put it this way. I honestly think these players are getting smarter with their money. You take a lot of these players that retired earlier, like the first 5 or 6, they're investing their money into small businesses and large corporations, which is going to tell you if you're taking $1 million and you're investing your money not only into small businesses and large corporations, but you're investing your money in a Roth IRA or whatever, stocks and bonds and this, that, and whatever. That you're looking at, most of these things in the stock market, Charles, as well as I do, they're almost guaranteed 21% increase by the time you retire. So at 21%, yeah, you're only on $1 million. You're only getting like $210,000. But say these players, because these are prolific players that are retiring. Let's say you put in, I don't know, $20 million. What is your return on that? You see what I'm saying? So I honestly think these players are putting in their time, but they're putting in their time to a point where they feel comfortable that with whatever they're investing in or whatever they're putting their money into, whether it be a small corporation or a large corporation or stocks and bonds or IRAs or whatever, are in themselves to start their own business, that they're going to be fine making a substantial less amount of money but still be able to live the lifestyle they want. I'm not mad at them at all. I hate the fact for the entertainment part of it, but let's be honest, man. If you can get to 30 years old and you do everything you need to do, you put in what, a good, let's say 7 years on the average in the NFL, and you escape the NFL after 7 years without a concussion, retire, dude. Take that money and invest it into all of that stuff I said, and make your money that way. Let your money work for you. Stop working for your money. So I ain't mad at him at all.
Yeah, and I think that is true about the players. I think they are starting to get a little bit smarter with their money, and they're also just getting smarter about life in general. When you see all these studies coming out, it's been in particular with the CTE disease, your chronic traumatic encephalopathy. I still don't know if I said that right, but
Dude,
I know it's CTE.
CTE.
Well, the big thing is it's a brain injury that I don't think can be diagnosed until a person dies.
Yeah.
So when you go in to that as a football player and you're in the NFL and you're making all this money, now players are sitting here saying, and they're asking themselves, is it worth it? And then when you throw into the account, some of these players have families, they have kids, they have wives, girlfriends, whatever the case. They want to be sane. They want to be able to play with their kids, to see their kids grow and still be sane in their own right. They don't want to be 45, 50 years old, losing
their kids are.
Like losing whole blocks of memory.
Yeah.
Not remembering this, not remembering that. And I just think it's just this is alarming for anybody associated with the NFL. And as much as the NFL may want to try to downplay this, I know they're doing what they can in terms of concussion protocols. I think they just had a new rule come out with concussion protocol, pretty much hiking up the penalties a little bit if the concussion protocol is missed or messed up in any way. But I mean, these players are just kind of looking at it. They get into the league, they get a big money contract. Like you said, man, they're investing. They're trying to start businesses. Look at Patrick Willis, the old linebacker for the San Francisco 49ers, and what he's doing out there in the Bay Area. And he was 28, 29 when he retired. So, I mean,
what Calvin Johnson's done. And this is the most recent. He invested in he took all of his money, and I probably wouldn't say all of it, maybe probably about a good 80% of it. He got to live too, and he invested all of that into real estate companies. I mean, what better company to invest in than a real estate company? You know what I'm saying? There's so many people out there that's doing this and that is investing in all of this research marketing on more land, so that you can do farming on land, on how to feed those plants more. And I know there's a couple of older like basketball players and football players and stuff they're investing in the research, because the return on that is going to be phenomenal. I mean, I invested in pharmaceutical companies, and I bought a pharmaceutical company that was a penny stock. I bought it for 21 cents a share, dude. It's at $10.91 right now. So why would you not take that opportunity and not move into those avenues and start retiring, for the fact that, look, I made millions and millions of dollars playing NFL for 7 years. I escaped with my entire memory intact. I'm good. Believe me, Charles, how many times have I told you I would love to play baseball and would love and would do it but put me in a football uniform. I'll tell you right now, let them pay me $900,000 for 1 year though. I'll walk the next year. I wouldn't play him.
And Patrick, before we move on, I just wanted to ask you this question. I think I asked you this question. It was a few shows back, and I'm talking maybe months ago.
Mm-hmm.
Look it up on the channel if y'all want to check it out. But but no, if you have two boys, if they said they wanted to play football, would you let them?
Yes, because it's what they want to do. I'm not going to hold them back from doing what they want to do. But if I can gear them, which my oldest son is geared into basketball and baseball, I would like. I'm going to feed whatever they want to do, because at that point, that's where they're going to be successful. So if it's football, I'm absolutely going to feed it. If it's baseball, I'm going to feed it. If it's cheerleading, I don't care. Whatever it gets them through college, makes them very successful, whatever the case may be. I have a friend that went to University of Arizona on a cheerleading scholarship, and he was a guy. Hey, I ain't mad at him. I ain't mad at him at all. As a matter of fact, he owns 2 businesses in Arizona now because he went to business management. Dude, I ain't mad at him. Whatever gets you through college. I mean, I've told you this before. I can't stand USC, Ohio State, and Notre Dame. So let my kid pick one of those schools, and I'll wear that jersey for 4 years before I burn it.
And look, Patrick, and hey, I'm with you, man, because I don't have any kids of my own, but I have a nephew. If my nephew came to me and said that he wanted to play football, hey, by all means, I'm all about it too. I just feel like because the reason why I asked the question is because I mean, you've seen and heard some of the players come out and say, "Well, man, I wouldn't let my kid play football." Seeing all the research that's coming out with CTE and traumatic brain injuries and all that other stuff, I wouldn't let my kid play football. To me, the last thing I would want to do is limit my kid.
Exactly.
If my kid wants to play football, I'm gonna let him play, and I'm gonna support it.
Because he could be a first-round draft pick, and if he's a first-round draft pick, he gonna get paid. All he has to do is play 4 years. Deuces, I'm investing. I'm out, and I ain't gonna be mad at him. I ain't gonna be mad at him one bit. I'll be like, dude, you had an opportunity to go max deal. What's your problem, dog? No. He's like, oh, I'm good. I made millions of dollars. I'm good. I'm gonna salute you. I'm gonna say, invite me over for dinner a couple of times. I want to see my grandkids, whatever. Hey, I ain't mad at you. You do your thing. I did mine. Now it's time for you to do yours. I'll feed it whatever it takes for him to be successful. That is what I'm gonna feed.
All right. Yep. Hey, I couldn't have said it any better, man. Well, let's move on, Patrick, to the NBA. And the league decided to take the All-Star game for next season out of the host city, which was going to be Charlotte. So they took the game out of Charlotte because of North Carolina's controversial House Bill 2. So basically, and I'm paraphrasing here, it has to do with LGBT laws, and basically going against transgenders, being able to use the bathrooms they have. It's just a discriminatory law against gays and lesbians, I guess. And the NBA said they're going to make a stand and take the game out of Charlotte. Now, to be clear, this was not necessarily a ruling against Charlotte. They wanted the game to be in Charlotte. Charlotte was doing, I guess, what they could to make rulings to keep the game there, to help keep the game there. But this is against North Carolina, basically. So the NBA made a statement. Now, personally, for me, I think the NBA, they're more apt to make these type of stands than the other leagues, the NFL, MLB, or the NHL. You have your players who come out, from LeBron James to Dwayne Wade. I bring them up because, of course, they are on the Miami Heat when the whole Trayvon Martin thing was going on, and they had the team join them in the hoods and the hoodies. All the other stuff, the I Can't Breathe shirts. Hell, you see the WNBA now making stands
Black
about
Lives Matter thing. Yep.
And so the NBA is more apt to make these stands. I don't have a problem with them taking the game out of Charlotte to make this stand. My question now, though, is where do you draw that line at? You're the NBA. If you decide to put the game, let's say you put the game, just throwing a city out here. Let's say you put the game in Chicago or Denver or one of the cities down here in Texas, Dallas, Houston, San Antonio, or in Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
If Georgia or Texas or Illinois or what was the other day, or Colorado, if any of those states make a controversial law and you have the All-Star game that's supposed to come to one of those cities, do you pull it then too? That's the thing. When you do something like this, whether you mean to do it or not, it sets a precedent. And now you kind of have to stay by that precedent at that point. So that's why I ask, where does it stop?
Well, is it my turn?
No, man. Yeah, go ahead, man. You could have jumped in any time ago.
All right, Charles. This is another thing that, I mean, this is related. This could be the same way I think about racism. It's a good question. At what point do we draw the line, or at what point does the NBA draw the line? The fact of the matter is that you don't see the MLB, the NHL, or the NFL doing this because it's not. It should not be an NBA problem. It shouldn't be. If the NBA,
it's political, man.
It's just like, we are against it, and you're fully aware that they are against it. MLB does it all the time, NFL does it all the time, and the NHL does it all the time. They state, we are against what this state is doing or what these people are doing, and we're against it, and we're fine.
But they don't necessarily get involved in the politics.
But they don't get involved because it's not their problem.
Mm-hmm.
They look at one color and one color only: green. What is going to make the most money? And that's the problem that they have. Now, I'm not going to say that this is the right way of thinking. I feel it is a progressive way of thinking, because it still doesn't change the fact, at what point do you draw that line? At what point does the NBA say, look, I'm not going to draw a line stating that we're going to talk about the LGBT. At what point do you say, I'm going to draw a line and say that it does not include me? Why do they constantly have to make stands in the NBA when their voice is not big enough to make that stand? At what point do they say, look, just do what you do and get the hell out of my way, and I'm going to do what I do? Now, granted, I'm not going to say that it's a really small voice in the NBA, but what I'm saying is that they're not progressively thinking the way the other sports are thinking. They're constantly holding themselves back by saying, we're not going to hold this game in Charlotte. Instead of saying that, why don't they just say, look, we're going to hold our game in Charlotte. This is what we believe, and we're going to stick to these beliefs. But we're going to still hold our game in Charlotte because Charlotte is not the problem. The NBA team is not the problem. It's the state. And how many times are you going to change the way a state thinks? The state, I'm sorry, is bigger than the NBA.
And another thing about that, Patrick, there's a lot of states that have laws that you might not like.
Yeah.
And so then that's where that question comes in at.
Well, you got to do for the popular. That's the reason why that's the reason why the United States has this free reign to vote who they want to vote in. If you don't like the Queen in London, That's it, dude. You have to deal with that family for the rest of your life. In America, we don't have to do that. We have a vote. But this is the thing that people don't understand about politicians. You hate some politicians, you like others. But the fact of the matter is that their view, the way they're going to do it, is they look at the country as a business. And as a business, what is going to work the best? It's not, I'm not going to do a job because what Charles Taylor says this is a good idea and only I can benefit from this. It's not going to happen. But what they're going to do is they say, well, can 51% of us as a country benefit from this? Because if 51%, it's better than 49.
Yeah, the majority.
The majority. It's a majority vote. So when you look at the NBA or when you look at these states and you look at the NBA, at what point does the NBA say, well, as a majority, we're going to play here because this is what the voting states. Now you're going to have people that say, oh, well, I don't like that, so I'm going to wear freaking t-shirts. You know what? Shove your t-shirts up your asses. Get over it and deal with the fact that what you are trying to do does not mean that the NBA is pissed off at the LGBT. They're just doing what they do to survive their business. And that's what it's about. Stop making it a racial issue. Stop making it a lesbian and gay and bisexual transgender issue. Just realize that it is a money issue. It's a business.
And then another thing about making a stand, if you're going to make a stand,
then you better stick by that stand.
Yeah, you have to continue to progress with that stand. And too many times especially nowadays, people will make a stand for that time being. And say they're not going to do this and say they're not going to do that. And then after a while,
I'm not going to play basketball for the season because so and so got beat or he's a racist or this or that or whatever. And then they're like, oh, well, the fans want me back. The problem was you didn't get paid.
Yeah, and so if you're going to make this, if you're going to make these stands, then you just have to. It can't be you make the stand. It can't be you make the stand right now and then all of a sudden it just dies. That's what happens a lot of times. When you say you're gonna do this, you want to try to be progressive, quote unquote, and
big quote unquote,
and then being progressive, that works for a week or maybe a month or 2 months, and then after a while you go back to status quo. So you brought up the part about what you're talking about is that Donald Sterling incident when he said all this racist stuff. The old owner of the Los Angeles Clippers, and Doc Rivers and Chris Paul were trying to make these stands talking about, oh my gosh, I can't do my job. I can't play for people like that. Well, again, you didn't think about that when
you signed the contract.
Yeah, when you signed these contracts. And I mean, this guy had a
huge history of this crap.
A clear documented history of being a racist. But that didn't matter at the time. So that's why, it's just, and those are just 2 examples. I mean, you can go on and on with how people do. And so, I mean, I just think if you're gonna stick with that stand, then you got to stay with that stand. So for the NBA to say they're gonna pull the game out of Charlotte, all right, cool. You make this move.
Stand.
Right. You make this move and you go about your business. But if other states or if other cities come up with whatever laws you might not agree with, are you just going to go and pull your events out every single time? I don't see the NBA doing that. I don't see any league doing that, because at the end of the day, like you said, it's going to be about that green. People are going to want to get paid. And they'll do whatever they have to get paid. So anything else on that topic before we move on to the Major League Baseball?
Nope.
All right.
You know my feelings about this society, dude. It's crap.
It's flawed. Very, very flawed.
Very flawed. And yet everybody's like, oh yeah, we're progressing. No, we're not.
I put it like this,
we're
Patrick. I think
treading water.
Well, I think I think here's the thing. We made strides, but man, we have a long way to go. And in some cases, it just seems like we're regressing.
Mm-hmm.
And so that it's not a good look, man. I'm not gonna sit here and say that everything is just real dookie like. But yeah, in some ways things seem more segregated than they were. And
10,
it's
10 days ago.
yeah, and it's really sad.
Yeah,
Well,
it sucks.
yeah. Well, Patrick, let's talk about the MLB since we talked about the this is a pretty serious topics we covered, man. But but
Lighten it up a little bit, right?
yeah, let's brighten this up a little bit with the Major League Baseball. You have the trade deadline coming up, and apparently the Chicago Cubs are not waiting till the trade deadline to make a move. They pick up closer. They pick up closer Aroldis Chapman from the New York Yankees. And to me and you and I, man, we had a nice discussion about this earlier today. I love the move for the Cubs. I like the move for the Yankees as well because the Yankees get some prospects. They need prospects. But for the Cubs, right now, hey, they're going for it. They are going for it. They want this World Series title. They feel like Aroldis Chapman is that guy, that closer, that solidifies things in the bullpen. They are going for it. I love this move for the Cubs. What about you?
Well, let's rewind a little bit and let's talk about the conversation we had today. All right. So because people have to know a little bit of the background history. Okay. So me and Charles talked earlier today while I was working, and I didn't think the Cubs needed to make a move, not of this magnitude. And honestly, it's a give or take with me. I think they had a okay closer who honestly has been getting shelled this second half of the season.
Yep.
It's like this. I like the move because honestly, when I saw what the Chicago Cubs gave up to get him, I mean, it was nothing. I mean, it was really nothing. A couple of prospects, and I think a little bit of money exchanged. Not enough to even break the bank.
And see, and that's another thing, real quick, Patrick. The Cubs, they have a very good farm system, so they're going to bring
and the Cubs the Cubs are building a farm system that is not quite yet up to Atlanta's, Texas, and Boston's farm leagues, but definitely making huge strides in the right direction with that. So when I look at what the Cubs gave up to get Chapman, who, by the way, is 20 saves, he has like 45 strikeouts, his ERA is like 2.01, that kind of stuff. Now you got the closer for the Cubs that was who is pretty good in his own right. All in all, when I saw what the Cubs gave up, all in all, I liked the move. But what they gave up, I wouldn't give up any more for him, is what I'm trying to say. He's a good closer. It solidifies several spots for the Cubs. One, what is the other closer's name? I can't think of his name.
Hector
Rendon. Yes. Okay. So you move Rendon, and like I said, we talked about this earlier. You move Rendon into the bullpen, who helps with middle relief. But it gives you a left-handed closer and a right-handed closer. That can be very scary, especially come playoff time. Because Chapman, I think he's record at 102 is his official record of hitting a fastball right now.
I think he threw 104 the other night.
Was that official? I mean, like that's official. He hit 104. Holy cow! Okay, well, this is the thing. there was a lot of discussion about, what me and Charles was saying, and it boiled down to, after I saw the stats of what Chicago was looking at giving up, what Chapman was going to bring to the team, blah 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 blah. I liked the move, but I would have never sold it any more than what they gave up. Now I'm a huge. I mean, I've been a huge in favor of keeping my prospects, especially with what Atlanta's been doing for the past 10 years. Selling prospects kind of scared me. But with all of that said, what the Cubs are telling me right now is that it's all or nothing. And they have put in a lot of things in place that's going to help them win a World Series. And with the stats that Chapman brings to the table, the only thing that I really worry about is I hope that they didn't fall in love with the speed. If they fall in love with the speed, then they're buying him for the completely wrong reasons. Personally, I felt that they had what it takes to win a World Series, or wouldn't have said it before, even with the closer and the middle relief that they had. I told Charles I thought that maybe they should put Arrieta in the bullpen for a couple of weeks, and that would help relieve a lot of pressure. Plus, he hasn't really been hitting his spots here lately, especially with going 3 for 4 or 1 for 4 in the win-loss column. Or 1 for 3, my fault. 1 for 3 in the win-loss column. But I think he has a few things to work out. I don't know what it would have helped, because of, like Charles was telling me, it's a matter of pulling him back, and how is that going to help if we're a temporary fix? But Chapman's a temporary fix as well, and I don't know if it's really a huge thing that is going to push them over the edge, but I just hope they didn't fall in love with the fastball.
Well, Patrick, to put more in context what you were saying, for what I meant by temporary fixes, you were talking about putting Jake Arrieta in there for like a few weeks. Yeah. And so if you're going to put him in there for a few weeks, it's not really solving much, because you're still going to put him back. Ultimately, you're going to bring him back into the starting rotation. You bring Aroldis Chapman in there, his role is defined. This man is going to be the closer. If you want to throw Rendon out there, then that's cool too. But you're bringing Chapman there to close. You're not asking him to do anything else. You're asking him to close. And if it gets to that position, yes, the Cubs, first of all, the Cubs are, they're trying to win this year for sure. But they have so much talent, young talent. You're probably going to see the Cubs, out there for years to come competing, because their talent is just so young and deep. With Chapman, you're bringing him in there and you're saying this guy is that chip to where we can win the World Series this year. If it does not work, you can let him walk, because again, he's still on that Reds contract pretty much. So it's not really that big of a gamble, I guess, is what I was saying earlier. It's a risk in the way of, you're saying this guy can get us over that hump. This guy can help us get a World Series title for the first time since 1908. And if you're the Cubs and you're seeing all this, that's one of the big reasons why I said I like the move. I say go ahead, make that move, man. You're deep in your farm system. You're deep in your lineup. You have a 5-man starting rotation. And another thing with Arrieta, that's going to work itself out, because when you get into the playoffs, probably either Hendricks or Hamill are going to go to the bullpen anyway. So I think that's going to kind of work itself out. I'm not worried about Jake Arrieta. I'm not. I think he'll be okay. Coming from what he was doing, man, won like 80 straight starts. I'm not exaggerating on the 80 straight starts. But it was in the 20s. But it was in the 20s. And so, I mean, teams are going to adjust. Teams are going to make some changes on how they approach him. So when he did what he did last year, it was kind of a shock to everybody because nobody was expecting this from Jake Arrieta. John Lester was supposed to be your ace last year. That's what the Cubs signed him for all that money for him to be the ace. And then for Arrieta to come in there and do that, that was a bonus. That is free, but that is
that's free money.
That's bonus. Yeah.
That's free money.
Yeah.
That's how I look at it. Like I hate it when the Braves go into extra innings, but man, every time they do, I stand up at the stadium. I go, free baseball, baby, free baseball. I love it. Look, it's like this, man. I like the move. Chicago is telling you that it is do or die. They're coming out and saying it is do or die. They're not waiting on the trade deadline. They're doing it. They're getting it in. They're getting it in, and they're doing it. But at the same time, I don't think it was needed. I think Chicago was strong enough to win a World Series where they were at. I think this is kind of overkill. I don't think Chapman is. I just don't think Chapman is that guy. I think they had enough. Personally, I think they had enough.
All right, Patrick. Well, I'll present this question to you. If you think they had enough, knowing the stats that you pulled up earlier today with Rendon, do you trust him in the playoffs? It's one thing in the regular season, but when you have this guy in the ninth inning facing better lineups, better pitching staffs, better all-around team, do you trust him to get the job done? Because if not, then you can justify the Cubs going after Aroldis Chapman.
It's like this. You pull up Rendon's stats. He has 18 saves. Granted, he has 7 blown saves in the season so far. Okay? But he has 18 saves, 7 blown. Chapman, 20 saves, 5 blown. Rendon, a 1.95 ERA. Chapman, 2.01. Win-loss column. Rendon, I think he has, I can't remember how many wins he has, but I think it was the same as Chapman as far as wins. He just has more blown, he has more blown saves. Now, I understand where you're coming from. And the question is, do I trust Rendon in that 9th inning in a playoff game? My answer is yes. But I'm not mad at the fact that they pulled Chapman. They got it. I mean, they paid a hefty price for him, but it wasn't as hefty as the media is making it, because these prospects. I mean, honestly, I'm not going to lie to you. Did I think Chicago came out on top with this trade? No, I think the Yankees did. The Yankees sold him for more than what he was worth, but it was still enough for Chicago that I would feel comfortable with. With that said, yes, I do trust Rendon in the playoffs. And I think if you tell him that you trust him and you show him that you trust him, he'll tend to pitch better. Chicago did it with Arrieta last year. We trust you to be our ace while Lester was injured. He stepped up. San Francisco Giants did it with
Bumgarner.
Yeah. He stepped up, dude. It's one of those things, man. You show a player you trust them, they'll step up. They'll fill the void, and I think Rendon would be good enough.
I mean, that could go either way, though. I mean, yeah, you could make that argument for sure, but I mean, there have been times when players have been trusted, and they didn't work out. So
I mean, let's be honest. Michael Jordan, how many times did he hit the final shot? 14% of the time, maybe. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, you're putting a ton of pressure on a person to deliver. And does he deliver in 50 games in the regular season? Maybe not, but he delivers that one time in a Game 7 playoff. That's all you remember. It's the fact of the matter. I mean, the one thing about sports that I love is that they never focus on the negativity. They always focus on the positivity. How many times did Bumgarner screw up before he got that shot and then he ran with it? You don't know. I can tell you right now, there was times earlier in his career he didn't pan out like that. But then he shows up in San Francisco and he does what he did. Now everybody is like, oh, he's the truth. Now he is. But he needed that one shot. So do I trust Rondon? Yeah, I trust Rondon. I would have put him in.
Okay. All right. Well, real quick, Patrick. And we'll probably talk about this later on in the week. But real quick, what is your main team who has to make something happen before the trade deadline, in your opinion?
Well, Chicago made probably the biggest trade. They made the biggest noise. I think Yankees had to make the trade that they made and get rid of Chapman and get what they needed to make a legitimate playoff push. I don't know how deep they're going to go, but they had to make something happen and get something in because they're teetering on this. They're teetering on actually surviving for the playoffs. So I think the Yankees needed to make some trades to really push and get some players. But another team that I think needs to do something is Boston. I think Boston needs to do something with a bat. Big Poppy, he's Big Poppy, but he's retiring one, and so they need to start looking at filling that void now and not waiting till the end of the season.
All right. Yeah. Yeah, I can see Boston, the team I'm gonna throw out there because I've been throwing them out there for years. The Pittsburgh Pirates, get a bat.
Oh, God. Okay. Yes.
Get a bat. Help me McCutchen out, please.
Get freaking two if you can. Something. Just get something to help McCutchen out, dude.
Well, hey, man. We'll wrap it up on that note, Patrick. So this will conclude the show. Tune into the channel, like the page, like everybody, or like everything on Facebook, on Google Plus. We're on there. We will get into Twitter, we'll get into LinkedIn, and we will get into all these other sites. Things got a little bit caught up for this last few months since I was out of the country. Patrick was making road trips, but but we're back. We're here. So like I said, subscribe to the channel. Please give us some feedback. We're all about the feedback. If you think there's something that we could do better, if you think there's something we could talk about a little bit more, or whatever, just let us know and we will respond. We promise. So on that note, I guess that will conclude this show, and we will talk to you later on in the week. Take care.